noting the spot in the crossing floor. Alan asked if I'd be prepared to say a couple of words. I had no idea I would have to follow such an inspirational and passionate speech. So I am clearly not going to compare well to that. Many reasons. One, I'm a forester, so I'm not usually this smart, and if I talk to things, it's usually truths. So bear with me. So I'm director with the Forest in Marston Vale. I've been involved there for 25 years. I have had the pleasure and the privilege to work with a wide range of companies, international brands, local companies, HSBC, Timberland, nationwide, all sorts of companies over the years who've been trying to do sort of pioneering and sort of leading work on how they can improve their environmental performance. And that's all been fantastic. I have never, ever encountered someone with drive and passion to make a positive environmental contribution as I have in Alan and the whole Midas team. It's humbling. But yeah, I like to think, 25 years, I'm an environmental professional, I'm an ecologist and forester, I have all these great credentials, committed myself to doing good, and yet I feel as if I compare very poorly to a man from a sector that's, that the material they fundamentally work with is oil-based. And then from that starting position, you have a business that has managed to find a way and demonstrate to others that this is possible. In a way, there are so many other sectors that would have it so much easier to sort of demonstrate a net positive contribution to the environment overall, and yet don't really commit to it. And I think that's what's incredibly impressive about what Midas have done with their Midas Green Initiative and the whole team here, and certainly led by Alan. I think we're utterly delighted to have had any tiny part as we might have had in the sort of Alan and Midas' success in achieving the King's Award. I think for us, our day job is using trees to transform 61 square miles between Bedford and Milton Keynes. And there's some interesting parallels as to why we exist, why the community forest exists. It exists as a solution to a problem from a former industry. Many of you who know the area will know of, the sort of brickworks between Bedford and Milton Keynes. Stewby was the world's largest brickworks in its heyday, created an enormous amount of wealth for the area. Thriving industry, quite a paternalistic industry, invested in a massive amount of social infrastructure. Communities grew and thrived and were really positive, vibrant places to live on the back of that industry. As that industry declined, it left a huge environmental legacy because it hadn't really planned for how it was addressing that environmental component. It was great economically, it was great socially. It was slightly blind, of the times perhaps, to the environmental impact it was having. And so fast forward, what you have is the economy of the area unraveling, the social fabric unraveling, and an environment which has been degraded over time. That's when, in the early 90s, the solution of creating a community forest was put in place to overcome that and allow for the regeneration of this area. So shorthand is we use trees to transform a landscape, to transform perceptions of it, to transform its prospects. And it's all about stimulating that economic and social regeneration, sort of using the environment slightly exploitatively, but in a very positive way, to sort of as the catalyst for change. So it seems really fitting that we end up working with such leading sort of luminaries, such as Midas, on sort of actually how does modern business look at its impact in the round. So a truly sustainable business is arguably one that addresses how it consumes resources from the natural environment, whether that's the carbon it emits that it needs to replace, or the footprint for the clean air, the clean water, all those things that the natural world gives us, that they're externalities, they're off the balance sheet, they're not captured. But actually, if you want a truly sustainable business, you need to follow the sort of example that Alan and the team at Midas have set and say, actually, this is sustainable because we're not eroding that natural capital, to use the jargon, that underpins all of our economy. And we're in that stage now where we're moving towards a different way of thinking. You've got a sort of head of economics, professor of economics from both Cambridge and Oxford in recent years coming out and saying our economic model needs to change because it's almost a house of cards. Unless we consider the impact on the environment, how our current economic model works, it's not sustainable. It's not that it's really bad for the environment. Actually, economically, it's just not sustainable. So if we want thriving businesses that create employment opportunities, create wealth, and happy, thriving communities, actually they need to be investing in the environment. And I think it's great for us, it's remarkable for us actually to have a company like Midas on our doorstep, sort of right at the edge of the forest, and people who want to sort of demonstrate how this can be done. Arguably from one of the most challenging starting positions, because the fundamental nature of the industry they're in. That's what's so impressive. So it's no great surprise, I'm sure, to all of you to hear that the Midas Green Initiative is the standard that we now set for everyone else who wants to work with us. We have carbon assets, we help design the Woodland Carbon Code, which regulates how woodlands sequester carbon and all the sort of really boring technical stuff. We worked to help pilot that and develop it some 15 years ago. So on the back of that, we have carbon assets within our own woodlands. We're not really minded to sell those. We don't really have a need to. It's great to have those assets. They've been part of that process. It takes a certain type of organisation to convince us that we really should part with them, because actually it's a partnership that's demonstrating more than just being a transaction. We're not really interested in just selling units and making money. Although if you look in my inbox every few weeks and see the number of people asking how much we'll sell a unit for, you might forgive us for thinking that was the entire purpose of our existence. I think we're really proud to have been involved, and I hope Alan and the team of Midas to recognise just how powerful their impact has been, not only to us locally, but in sort of setting the standard that we now expect others to follow. And I'm absolutely delighted for all of you, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, Joe.